Good evening and welcome to the June 3rd, 2014 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It finally feels like summer out there, thank goodness. It is my privilege to call this meeting to order. I want to invite those who haven't already done so to please pick up a copy of our agenda tonight. There are copies on either side of the room on the ledges. Please pick one up and follow along. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items that are on our agenda at the designated period of time, but also a segment under number 4, which is dedicated to public comments and questions of a general nature with respect to items that are not on our business agenda tonight. It is our custom to begin our meetings by proudly reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point in time, I would invite everyone to please stand and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terrific. Thank you very much. I'd now like to ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson? Commissioner Rankin?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Newstead?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. We'll go right to item 3, which pertains to minutes of prior council meetings. We have a couple of sets of minutes to review and approve tonight. Council meeting minutes from May 20th, 2014, and our award-winning, world-famous long-range plan meeting minutes from May 20th, 2014. Are there any questions, comments, changes, or corrections to either set of minutes from any members of the Village Council? Hearing none, I just want to point out I apparently did not get the purple tie memo tonight. I apologize for that. Roll call, please.
We need to make
We
a
need
motion
a
first.
motion.
Oh, gosh, I was so worried about that. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the pending motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I was absent.
Very good. 5 in favor, 1 abstention. Great. Now I'd like to pause for a couple of very important proclamations. As I was noticing or pointing out earlier on, summer seems to actually finally be here, and I will never ever complain about being too hot ever again, coming on the heels of this last winter. But it would be most appropriate to celebrate National Garden Week in the Village of Downers Grove. And I have a proclamation on that very point. Whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is celebrating its 87th anniversary, and whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove was founded on February 28, 1927, and Mrs. M.L. Puffer was elected president, and Mrs. Lyman was elected Wildflower and Conservation Chairman. Those are 2 names that ought to be familiar to everybody in town here. Whereas the objectives of the club remain the same today as in 1927, that is, the advancement of gardening, development of home grounds, and furthering village beautification to stimulate an interest in cooperative gardening and to aid in the protection of forest, wildflowers, and birds. And whereas over these years, the Garden Club has planted flowers, bulbs, trees, and bushes at nearly every park and school in the village, as well as at the library, the Main Street Cemetery, the Maple Grove Forest Preserve as well. And whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is a charter member of the Garden Clubs of Illinois and the National Garden Clubs. And whereas scholarship awards are given out each year to horticulture students at the University of Illinois. Now therefore, I, Martin T. Tully, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of June 1 through 7, 2014 as National Garden Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and congratulate the Garden Club of Downers Grove on their accomplishments and wish them much continued success. On the heels of that, of course, the Garden Club of Downers Grove is hosting an event on June 5th at the American Legion Post over on Saratoga at 7 p.m. The topic is hostas on the small side, not to be missed. I'm going to try to see if I can get there, and hostas like this warm weather, by the way. Attendance for that event is free, and if you're interested, call the library at 630-960-1200. The other proclamation I have is also an important one and very celebratory, and something that we're very proud to celebrate with this proclamation. Whereas Special Olympics is the world's largest sports organization for children and adults with intellectual disabilities, providing year-round training and competitions to more than 4.2 million athletes in 170 countries. And whereas the first International Special Olympics Summer Games were held at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois on July 19 and 20, 1968. And whereas the mission of Special Olympics is to give people with intellectual disabilities continuing opportunities to develop physical fitness, demonstrate courage, experience joy, and participate in sharing of gifts, skills, and friendship with their families, other Special Olympic athletes, and the community. And whereas Special Olympics offers over 32 Olympic-style individual and team sports, and whereas the 2014 Special Olympics USA will be held from June 14th through 21st, 2014 in Princeton, New Jersey. And whereas the 2014 Special Olympics USA are only the third USA Games in Special Olympics history, and whereas Downers Grove native Jeff Asowski will help represent Team Illinois and will compete in golf 9-hole stroke play. And whereas Jeff is excited to be competing at a national level and having the opportunity to travel and meet other Olympians. Now therefore, I, Martin T. Tully, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim June 3rd, 2014 as Special Olympics Day in the Village of Downers Grove and extend best wishes from the Village Council and the entire Downers Grove community as we root on Jeff Asowski and the entire Special Olympics Illinois athletes competing in the 2014 USA Games. Congratulations on that and good luck. Go Team Illinois. Those are all the proclamations I have tonight. That will then bring us to item 4, which is reserved for public comments of a general nature. If there are any questions or comments of a general nature from any members of the audience with respect to items not appearing on tonight's agenda, I would ask that you please make your way carefully down to the podium. The protocol is to share with us your name and address, and we would then welcome hearing from you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is William Waldeck. I live at 1409 Willard, right here in Downers Grove. And in the 1860s, the federal government wanted to complete a transcontinental railroad. Some of the funds included $16,000 per mile of track laid on flatland, $32,000 for the foothills, and $48,000 per mile in the mountains. Railroad builders like Thomas Durant hired well-qualified, credentialed, experienced people to survey the land and make maps. Another talent that was sought was malleability. These men were hired because they could literally, on paper, make mountains out of molehills. These and other such schemes cost the government tens of millions of dollars in 1860s money. Malleability. Fast forward about 125 years, I was having a conversation with an executive who commented that I had a quality that corporations say they want but don't really appreciate. I asked what it was, and he said integrity. I thanked him for the compliment, but I always remembered the greater message about what organizations really want. A couple weeks ago, we lost the services of our village planner, Tom Dabereiner. I worked with Mr. Dabereiner for longer than most, if not all of you on the dais. Before Tom came to the village, it was like a Wild West. The department was like a revolving door. In a housing boom, the residents had major issues with development, building codes, and enforcement, giving rise to groups like the Downers Grove Watch. Before Tom's tenure, the permit process actually took 2 to 4 times longer. Yes, a village effort to fix, but it was in the development and planning areas. Under Tom Dabereiner, a number of major projects came forward in addition to the many smaller requests. On many occasions, developers, owners, and builders came forward and commented in these chambers about how much they appreciated working with Tom and his staff. Midwestern University had several such projects. During Tom's tenure, many programs were developed and implemented. They included facade program and Oasis. Any frustration with these programs was due to implementation and interpretation by council. In other words, we got what was requested and what we decided. We got a comprehensive plan updated for the first time in decades. And the recent zoning update was another of Tom's achievements, although he was precluded from taking it across the finish line. It is his work per council direction. No matter where you go, the person charged with enforcing codes is not a popular fellow. It is even tougher on those who enforce codes on those individuals who are in power or have access to power and think that they are special and the rules don't apply to them. They were angry at the start. They continued to be angry, and now they're placated. Tom had a target on his back for a long time. His department generated hundreds of thousands of dollars, but little went back to his department. And if all that money was on the tax bill, it would cost each taxpayer about $32 on their tax bill. Imagine what could have been accomplished if he didn't have to work in a hostile environment. So you'll put an ad out for a replacement. You'll want somebody with Tom's expertise, credentials, and experience. But history tells us that you're not really looking for integrity, but malleability. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the audience of a general nature? Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Tully, members of the Village Council. My name is Matt Larson. I live at 5830 Lyman, Downers Grove. I'm a new homeowner.
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm also the executive director of the Illinois Spina Bifida Association. Spina bifida is the most common permanently disabling birth defect in the United States, and we are a statewide organization that works to improve the quality of life of individuals and families affected by spina bifida. For the past 25 years, the Spina Bifida Association has partnered with Bill K. Chevrolet to hold a charity raffle benefiting our programs, and the raffle has raised over $1 million for charity. Until this year, the raffle has been in Lisle, and we would like to move the raffle to Downers Grove at the new Bill K. Corvettes and Classics location on Ogden Avenue. And I'm not sure if it's on the agenda, but we've submitted a raffle license application, and I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you for your time and consideration, and we hope we can partner together for many years of the future, serving individuals and families throughout the state. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Larson. Welcome to Downers Grove. We're glad to have you and appreciate you sharing that with us and for moving the event to Downers. We hope it's very successful.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments of a general nature from any members of the audience? Seeing that there are none, we'll move to item 5, which is reserved for council member reports with respect to items of interest or activities going on in the community. And that time of the year, I know there are lots, but I'll start with Commissioner Jose and see if you have any report outs.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rankin?
Thank you. I would like to report something. Commissioner Barnett and I and Shannon Forsyth from the Downers Grove Park District attended a community gardens tour of groups in DuPage County that have community gardens, and there were schools and churches, and we even went to Tell Labs and some park districts, and it was really interesting to see all the different approaches. One church uses it for their church members to teach them how to grow their own food and save money by having organic gardening, and they all pitch in and take shifts, and it's real interesting. And then the school program used it for students in the environmental club, and the woods club made the boxes, and the biology club tested the soil, and the football team laid the mulch. And I mean, it was really neat to see how everyone approached it, and I hope that we can someday do something like this in Downers Grove, whether it's a village event, a village-sponsored program, or Park District-sponsored program, or just a community initiative where groups come together and figure out how to make it work. So it was really interesting, and I'd be happy to share some of the stuff we learned.
Thank you, Commissioner. Love to see that. Maybe tied in with National Garden Week.
I know, that was not on purpose.
You shouldn't have said that, because I was going to give you credit for masterful planning. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's something we can look forward to trying to do down the road. Commissioner Barnett?
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Durkin?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I just want to report out that this weekend Saturday, June 7th, from 9 a.m. until noon at Lakeview Junior High School in Downers Grove. State Representatives Ron Sandak, along with House Leader Jim Durkin, and Senate Republican Leader Christine Radogno are going to be having a Children's Safety Expo. It's free to the public. There's going to be a lot of activity. One of the highlights is at 9:30, the Lifestar Chicago helicopter, which is the ambulance in the air, will be on site for those to come up to and see it. If you haven't, it's rather impressive, and pray that you never need it, but it's good to know that it is there if it is needed. And then there'll be a Traveling World Reptile Show at 10:30. In addition, all the activities are going to be 45 booths, ranging from topics of basic bicycle safety, Bright Start College Savings Program, passport information, fire safety, nutrition, kind of falls in line with the gardening, fingerprinting, adoption, transportation, special needs, and the iCash program. And if you have any additional information, you can go to Representative Sandek's or Durkin's website, and they'll have additional information there. And I know that it was in the newspapers as well this past week. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Newstead.
Thank you, Mayor. This weekend on Saturday, it's the first Saturday of the month, so the village will be hosting a electronics recycling event right back here behind Village Hall. The event kicks off at 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. And it is volunteers and staff members that come out to work these events, so it's a really great way to get rid of some of those old TVs that are no longer allowed to go in landfills and any other electronics that you may have. After that, if you're inclined, there is a community garage sale to benefit the O'Leary family, one of our Downers Grove firefighters. They have a daughter who is ill and in need of assistance. That will be at Fishel Park in downtown Downers Grove as well. I believe that sale goes from about 10 a.m. till sometime in the late afternoon, 5 p.m. So a couple of great things to do, as well as our downtown market, which has been very robust already this year. So lots to do in Downers Grove. Thank you, Mayor.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And for my part, I have a observation and a quick comment or question of staff. My observation, first of all, is to remind everybody that there are in fact only 15 days, 4 hours, and 42 minutes left until Rotary Grow Fest 2014. You can feel the excitement in the air. I can almost smell the elephant ears now. Question I have is, as I embark and disembark from the Main Street train platform, which is a work in progress right now, and given the traditional layout of Grove Fest, I am sure that we are looking at additional accommodations or protections with respect to pedestrian traffic and the proximity of rides and whatnot to what is obviously a very disrupted environment right now due to that platform construction project, which foolishly some of us thought might actually be finished by the time that the festival starts, but clearly that is not going to be the case. So I just, behalf of all of us, just because I'm sure there are other people who are kind of asking that same question, if there are any particular things that we should be aware of, or the public should be aware of, it's just struck me as I walked by in mentally placing those crowds in that environment. I think we'd all probably like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we can get more information about how the construction affects the Grove Fest layout and operations. We don't have it at our fingertips now, but it has been considered.
I knew it had, and I knew you had it, so I brought it up this week and not next week.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That's all I had. That ends item 5. That brings us to item 6, which is reserved for public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go right to our consent agenda. Item 7, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Are there any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any of the items that are on tonight's consent agenda? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to any of the items on tonight's consent agenda, items 7A through I? Hearing none, I will just add that I am really looking forward to the return of the bike race in July. That is going to be a terrific event, and I hope it's the beginning of a long tradition. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passed unanimously. That brings us to the end of our consent agenda and to our active agenda. We have one item on that agenda tonight, and this order of business is to reconsider an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, codified as Chapter 28 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code, effective June 15, 2014, passed and approved May 20, 2014. First, I would request a motion to reconsider the vote taken on May 20, 2014 with regard to the adoption of the ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, codified as Chapter 28 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code, effective June 15, 2014.
Mayor Tully, I was on the prevailing side of this motion, therefore, I make a motion to reconsider. An ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, as codified as Chapter 28 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code, effective June 15, 2014, passed and approved May 20th, 2014.
Is there a second from another member of the council who is also on the prevailing side?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion from the council? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The motion passes, and that the motion to adopt the zoning ordinance now appears before the village council as if it had never been voted upon.
Mayor Tully, I would like to make a motion to adopt the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the Village of Downers Grove, codified as Chapter 28 of the Downers Grove Municipal Code, effective June 15th, 2014, with the inclusion of language in the ordinance allowing the maximum building height in the M1 and M2 zoning districts to be 37.5 feet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion from members of the village council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. That matter passes unanimously and brings us to the end of our active agenda. That brings us to item 9 on our agenda, our first reading or our workshop agenda, when we entertain items for presentation, discussion only, and for action at a future date. And as is customary, we turn the microphone over to village staff for a presentation of those items. Good evening, Mr. Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. All four items are awards of contract coming from the Public Works Department. So I will turn the entire first reading over to our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There are 4 items tonight to award, to present to you. The first item is the 2014 Water Main Improvement Contract B. This is a motion to request award for the 2014 Water Main Improvement Contract B to J. Condon Sewer Service of Carroll Stream in the amount of $1,259,500.80. This project is the second, actually it's the third water improvement contract you've seen this year. You saw Contract A, as well as the Downers Grove Estates Esterbrook contracts. Together with this contract, it'll be over 2 miles of water main we will be replacing this year in the village. This project includes the installation of approximately 3,200 lineal feet of water main replacement, 51 residential water services along that area, and restoration of sidewalks, driveways, parkway, and streets where we're disrupting them. This work is occurring on Bonnie Bray, Lyman, and Fairview Avenues, in areas where we've had a history of water main breaks. A call for bids was issued, and 6 bids were received. J. Condon Sewer was the low bidder, and they have satisfactorily completed similar projects for municipalities, including Bensonville, Glendale Heights, as well as work for the Village of Downers Grove, and staff recommends award of this contract to J. Condon Sewer. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Commissioner Durkin?
Not too often.
Speaking on behalf of
talk about our own street that we live on. You know, this is definitely something that is very much needed. I believe we've had 17 main breaks in about 12 months period. And, you know, I compliment staff and tip my hat to them, along with every resident who lives on Bonnie Bray, that staff was able to figure out a way to do this without interrupting the existing trees that have been planted there, I believe, since the early 60s. You know, it's unfortunate that the street itself was already paved several years ago because it was one of those complete rebuilds, I believe. But this is really something that needs to be done. And I know it's going to be based on this, it's going to be on consent next week, so I just wanted to make my comments now. And I appreciate it on behalf of the few neighbors that live on that street. It's not a very big street, but it's unfortunate that it's going to cost as much as it does, but it does cover other areas of the community. So I will be supporting this wholeheartedly next week.
If you want to get back in your driveway, I imagine so.
Yeah, and my wife can, and the rest of the lady people can finish showering.
Other questions? Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council?
Okay.
Next item, please.
Our second project is a stormwater project. It's a motion requested award of a contract for the Hill and Grand Headwater Replacement Project to Swallow Construction Corporation of Downers Grove in the amount of $198,653.25. The primary task of this project is to remove and replace the head wall and grate at this location, which you can see on this photograph here. It is a vertical grate, and the way it's designed now, the creek runs right up to the grate, and any debris that is in that channel is pushed up against the grate. We're also having considerable erosion along the edges, and the head wall itself, the concrete edges, are beginning to fail. A head wall and grate really provide stability along the edges of structures like this. They protect against erosion and scour because there's considerable water forces. They allow water to enter the pipe. They reduce clogging with the grates that are in place. They provide a safety feature by keeping people out of the grate, and they provide stabilization of that stream bank. This is a sketch showing the side view of the planned replaced structure. It will be a sloped structure. The grate itself on it will be made of a high-density plastic material, which will be a smooth surface. It will be smooth edges, so the debris will come along the bottom and will be pushed up onto the grate instead of getting caught along the bottom of it. You also see about a foot opening along the bottom there that will allow small debris to pass through without getting caught. It's also about 3 times the surface area of opening that the existing grade is. So it'll be a large improvement in what you see out there. Just to summarize between what's there and what's proposed, it will increase the water pipe capacity, the water entering through this grate. It will reduce clogging frequency. It will improve safety. Instead of being a vertical grate where water and any debris is pushed against it, it'll be a slanted surface. People would be able to walk up the grate if they found themselves in that channel, or any staff that was working to clear it would be able to walk up the edges of the grate versus the structure that's there now. We'll also be stabilizing the erosion all along that channel, and as part of the project, we're installing a remote site monitoring feature, which is we're able to do because of our new updated SCADA system. SCADA is typically used for our drinking water system, but in this case, we'll be installing remote cameras and flow sensing equipment. It'll do a couple of things. It'll allow staff who's at home or not at the site, if we're having a rain incident at night, they'll be able to log in, view the camera, see if there's any reason to be concerned or send any maintenance staff out. There'll also be a remote monitor it'll notify staff if the water gets to a certain height, and it'll notify staff if the water rate is rising at a high rate. So it'll give us a couple different indicators of what's going on at site when we're not there actually watching it. I think it'll give us much better eyes on the ground to monitor the operation of that. We issued a call for bids and received 3 bidders. Swallow Construction was the low bidder, and they've satisfactorily completed similar projects for the city of Aurora and Yorkville. They've also successfully completed the Oakwood Avenue Storm Sewer Replacement Project for the village in 2012, and were recently awarded the 2014 Water Main Improvement Contract A for the village as well, and staff recommends award of this contract to Swallow. Just a brief follow-up, the project will be starting just as soon as school's out, and is planned to be completed prior to school being back in place is right there, right next to Whittier School, and we will be coordinating with the school and with neighboring residents to notify them of the construction schedule. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Terrific, and thank you for that additional explanation and notification. Questions or comments on item 9B from the audience? Questions or comments on item 9B from Village Council? Commissioner Durkin.
Do we have anything similar to this that's being proposed in the village elsewhere?
You mean similar as the grade or the
Just
SCADA?
overall monitoring. I mean, if you monitor at night, is there going to be a light that electronically is turned on so you can see? Now, how is the monitoring going to be at night?
We don't currently have anything like this in the village, and we will be working with our consultant on the setup of it to make sure it's visible. I'm not sure exactly about the lighting, but we will be working with them to optimize our ability to view the location.
At night? Wow. This is really neat.
we're going to have the high water alarm ring at Commissioner Durkin's house.
No problem.
I have a question too. So in the past, part of the challenge with this was it would get clogged and it would be stuck down and we'd have to go out there and take care of it. And if we weren't aware that it was stuck, that was the problem. So the alarm should fix that, I would think. Do they ever have anything that automatically comes up or we can remotely bring it up, or is that not a technology that exists yet?
It does. There's different levels of that available. We did do some site visits on much larger installations where you have larger, like small rivers. We viewed one actually that has like a raking system. It's run on can you imagine like a huge bicycle chain type system comes up, and those are really for very large sites, much larger than this type of installation. When you get into that, you're adding a lot of equipment, mechanical equipment. It's not the most attractive, higher maintenance, higher operations. We think that what's proposed here is well suited for this location and will work very well with very little intervention. That was really what the scope of this project was. We were looking for was something that will work in the natural environment on its own with little intervention from staff and give us the ability to monitor it.
So we don't plan to be raising this at all because it should not have the debris clogging issues that the old one does, that the existing one does.
Okay. Okay, well, and we, in a rain event, we're paying attention and we have staff on
Absolutely.
monitoring this, so I would imagine hopefully that won't be an issue. Sounds like you've resolved it. Thanks.
But it's the grade angle that's really the preventer for debris clogging, right? Because it's what, a 45-degree angle?
It's also the design of the material itself, that smooth surface without any bars to catch anything on.
Oh, I see, okay.
Other questions?
I'm dying, Mayor. Just don't
Go ahead.
use the word prevent. This is going to be a huge improvement. It's awesome, and it's well past needed. But with enough stream force and enough time since the last cleaning of the stream bed, there's still going to be a ton of crap that piles up on this thing. What it'll do is it'll brush away. It won't raise as high as quick, and it'll be easier and safer to clean sort of in the process. I get nervous when we start talking about totally solving stormwater stuff, because you don't solve it as much as you try and manage the control of it a little better. So,
I think it's a good point. This will significantly improve the current situation and likely greatly decrease the instances would cause problems like we've had in the past. But as we've seen throughout different structures around the country, even ones much larger, nothing is foolproof. Mother Nature has a way of getting past even the best designed structures of man and woman, but this will be a huge improvement. Other questions or comments? Thank you. Next item, please.
The last two items are connected to the same project. That is, a motion is requested to award a contract for the 2014 storm, I'm sorry, I skipped over to, I missed one page. Same project, motion is requested to award a contract for 40th and Washington drainage improvements to J. Congdon Sewer Service of Carroll Stream in the amount of $650,439.70. This project is shown on this exhibit here, dashed in red. The new storm sewer will increase inlet capacity and pipe conveyance, which will significantly lower flood elevations on 40th Street west of Washington Street and on Washington Street north of 40th Street during heavy rainfall events. This area did experience structural flooding during the April 2013 storm event. A call for bids was issued and 6 bidders were received. The original bid on this project was based on the original scope of the project, came in over budget. And what staff did was reevaluated the scope of the work and modified it to meet the objectives of the project while meeting our budget limits. So we were able to re-engineer the project, reduce some items that didn't contribute to this needs of the project, and we were able to fine-tune the scope to meet our budget parameters. As I said, Jay Conway Sewer was the low bidder. They have satisfactorily completed underground utility projects similar to this project for Bensonville, Arlington Heights, and the city of Naperville. And they have also successfully completed the Elm Street Storm Sewer project for the village in 2012. The second project is related to this project. It provides resident engineering services for this project, as well as a future storm sewer project that will be presented to you later this year. This is to award a contract for the 2014 storm sewer construction engineering services to Strand Associates of Joliet in the amount of $53,900. And this, as I said, will provide construction engineering services and a resident engineer during the construction of this project, as well as a future project this year. That are both scheduled. This one's scheduled for the summer of 2014, as well as a project in fall of 2014. We did post a request for qualifications. We did pre-qualify 4 firms and received proposals from 3 of the 4 firms and recommend award of the services to Strand based on their understanding of the scope, their capability to perform the work, their experience, and their proposed fee. They provide the village with water system modeling and have construction engineering experience with the village and with other communities. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about either of these contracts.
Thank you. With respect to either one of those items, 9C or D, any questions or comments from members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council on items 9C or D? Good work, good presentation, good project.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. That does end our first reading. It brings us to item 10, which is the mayor's report. I just have one item I want to report out, as I periodically do to my colleagues. I'll report out things that are going on with respect to DuPage County Stormwater Management Committee. There was a meeting this morning, and we received an update from DuPage County Stormwater staff in terms of how things are going on 2 important topics to all municipalities in DuPage County. Number 1 will be the 2015 stormwater budget for DuPage County. And then second of all, the progress that they're making with respect to their needs assessment in terms of what stormwater projects the county believes need to be done in order to then figure out what it is they need to figure out how to pay for. And then they're going to have that conversation with respect to how best to pay for it. And that will bring in some other topics that I know were of high interest to stakeholders in DuPage County. Just as a quick update, the initial proposed fiscal 2015 budget was provided to the Stormwater Management Committee this morning. It is really just the beginning of the cycle. The adoption will not occur until August. For now, what county staff is asking is that those who are interested, including municipalities, to review the proposed budget and provide any questions or comments. There is and I know our village staff knows this, Karen Dalton-Lang was there at the meeting, as she always is, but for everyone else's benefit, there's a survey that is open until July 18th that they are encouraging all municipalities and whomever, ecumenical businesses, not-for-profits, whoever has an interest to participate in. What they are encouraging, though, that municipalities, as best as possible, speak in one voice. So, for example, Downers Grove not just giving its input, and then the Chamber of Commerce, and then the EDC, and then the Park District, but trying as much as possible to get coterminous units of government to try to speak with one voice as much as possible. So I know we'll follow up on that to the extent we haven't already done so. Understanding that economic development and stormwater management aren't always necessarily completely aligned, but what they are asking for is all the comments to be provided from one community as much as possible in one voice. All those comments, once they are in, will be discussed in July as part of the budget. And there will be municipal stakeholder meetings with respect to feedback that has been received through the process that has been going on, that I know some of you are aware of. I'll just jump to that very quickly. The DuPage County Stormwater staff has been holding meetings with the 6 districts that basically divide up DuPage County, districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think all but districts 2 and 6 have held their meetings. As you know, Downers Grove is basically split between District 2 and 3. Manager Fieldman was at the District 3 meeting that was held very recently. We're tag teaming. I'm going to be at the District 2 meeting. Our understanding is that the presentations, as understandably so, are largely the same to every district so that no one feels they're getting different information than someone else. And they are primarily presentations to the managers and mayors or presidents of every community so they understand what's going on with the processes. Feedback is being requested as part of that process, and the question was asked this morning, will that feedback be done in time, compiled and done in time for it to have an effect on the proposed fiscal 2015 stormwater budget? The answer is no, that's unrealistic. That feedback is primarily being gathered and will have a big impact on the fiscal 2016 budget and beyond. So basically, the budget that was handed out this morning is more or less the normal budget, the one that will reflect the needs assessment, and the tour that has been taking place amongst the various districts will be worked into the next budget. That being said, once the budget is available, if there are any questions or comments, there was some discussion this morning of some of the issues that are in the budget, including their burning off of reserves, the need for additional funds. Obviously, we want to weigh in on that as we can. Just one other important date to let everyone know of. I asked where the status was with respect to the needs assessment itself. Obviously, it is being developed as part of the tour that I just mentioned, because the county doesn't want to just know its list of projects, but it wants to hear from municipalities and others, stakeholders in the county, what other projects they think may be of importance, so that the needs assessment list includes all that feedback. The expectation is that the Stormwater Management Committee will, by its September 2014 meeting, have the first iteration, if you will, of what that needs assessment looks like. So obviously, all of us are very anxious to see what that's going to look like, to see the results of the feedback. It is an ongoing process, but I want to keep everyone apprised of that, because obviously this is a very important subject for Downers Grove and all the other communities in DuPage County. Obviously, in and of itself, due to the importance of stormwater, but also when they start talking about what projects to do and how to pay for it, how much money is needed, those are all critical questions that we want to make sure that we stay very vigilantly involved with. I just wanted to share that update with everyone, and as these meetings progress, I'll do my best to do so. One thing that might make sense is that since Mr. Fieldman and I will both be at the District 2 and District 3 meetings, that perhaps we can bring back some very shortened version of what Mr. Charlton has been presenting to the attendees at those meetings for the benefit of the entire council and the community, since basically it's more or less the same presentation. I don't think we need to do an entire hour and a half presentation, but something that hits the high points, maybe after the District 3 meeting, which is next week. I'm sorry, the District 2 meeting is next week. Sure. District 3 meeting was this week. That might be something I think everyone would find worthwhile, I'm guessing.
We can also put it on our website, because we do have the presentation in its entirety. It actually speaks for itself. It's a deck that's intended to be, can be read alone, stand alone. So we'll put that on our website.
That would even be better. Terrific. That's all I had on my report. And of course, if there are ever any comments on any of the topics with respect to stormwater management, let me know. That brings us to item 11, manager report. Mr. Fieldman?
No report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Item 12 on our agenda, attorney's report. Ms. Petrarca?
No report, Mayor.
No report. All right. And that brings us to item 13, council member new business. Any members of the village council have any items of new business they'd like to raise with the rest of their colleagues? Other than the noisy water pitchers. Hearing none, brings us to item 14, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?